Origin Chance, and this is Kane's Wrath, the best RTS and Command and Conquer sendoff. This was on Bricky, obviously. I heard of Command and Conquer, but it's some kind of a strategy game, but that's about it. I have no other knowledge of it. Yeah. Real time, I think, RTS means, not, turn-based, like, if I'm, I don't know if I'm missing this, but, in a turn-based thing, one attack and then, he stops and other attacks. This is not like that. RTS is basically, real time. Anybody can attack. Is that what it is? Fuck it, I'm gonna Google it. Yeah, it is that, real time. So basically, it's not turn-based, right? It just, at the same times, it allows players to move simultaneously, basically. So modern games, basically, right? Even though this is Command and Conquer 3. Is it? That's what YouTube tells me, from 2007. So first Command and Conquer, God knows how old that's going to be. But yeah, let's watch it. So obviously Bricky is a review guy, not really a Warhammer guy, even though he does great Warhammer videos. He reviews everything from games and things, I guess. So yeah, this is another game, so it's going to be fun. Let's watch it.
When you think of a villain, especially a villain in the Command & Conquer series, generally your mind goes to Kane. See that man just bathed in red light, the crazy coat he's got on. He really emanates the power of a villain, doesn't he? But truly, it's not the fact that he's a fanatical cult leader. It's not the fact that he's a murderous crazy man or his drip. He's evil because he's bald. And that's why you need my sponsor, Keeps. Did you know 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of male power baldness in their time? In fact, sometimes very early on. And the most important thing to do is to make sure that you are preventative. And with Keeps, you can make sure that you do not become a villain like our boy Kane here, despite this fantastic drip. And I've sung the praise of Keeps pretty often because the company seemed great, the products seemed great, and the reviews were wonderful. And just about a month ago, I decided to take the plunge into it myself. I mean, I'm pretty happy with where my hair is at right now, but I noticed, there's a little bit here and there, and I'm like, hey, the point is preventative anyways, so here I am with it. It takes a few months to really settle in, but that's kind of the point. If nothing changes, that I'm doing it right. And I felt that considering how much I advertise this product, I should be definitely taking more of a chance to use it and not just rely on other reviews. So with that being said, you can go down in the description and go to keeps.com/Bricky to get 50% off your first order. Once again, it is in the description, keeps.com/Bricky. Do not be like Kane. He's a very bad man. And with that being said, thank you for sponsoring this video. And let's talk about Zone Raiders. Hello everyone, my name is Bricky, currently experiencing crippling insomnia from hearing Missile Squad ready for combat in my every waking nightmares. Listen, strategy games, they're hard. They're hard from both a technical and big brain point of view. Having a good APM while micromanaging units, buildings, production queues, and whatever the hell your opponent is doing, it takes a lot of skill. And you know who always has had a skill issue? This guy. Bricky have skill issue. Hard thing make Bricky scared. Bricky allergic to hard thing. You go near hard thing and you go But for some reason, my parents thought it was a good idea to buy me StarCraft Brood War when I was a really young kid, and god damn it, did I have a good time with it. So young RTS player Bricky decided to keep that train rolling, jumped onto the Command and Conquer series with Command and Conquer 3, and fell in love. And from there, I mean, StarCraft is a very popular RTS game, arguably the most popular RTS game out there, but it is not my favorite. That title goes to
I think StarCraft is the only one I know that, I remember people playing in tournaments long ago, right? People are sitting competitive, just fucking, I don't even know what's happening there, but people are just basically doing their thing, and it's a whole competition and shit. I'm like, what the hell? That was the first time I realized there can be a video game competition.
Command and Conquer 3, Kane's Wrath. Kane's Wrath is just a gem. It is graduated from the goat straight to moose. Command and Conquer 3. Oh my god, what a game. Made with so much love, so much care, so much polish. When fun was at the forefront, and it was made by EA, so sales figures were there, but the fun fun. And I mean, you know me. Well, okay, maybe some of you don't know me. For those who don't know me, hi, I'm Bricky. I make video. But besides that, you know, I just jump around from topics. I just bounce around talking about where the hell I want to talk about. So I felt like talking about Command & Conquer 3 Kane's Wrath because it's a goddamn amazing RTS game. Okay, fuck you.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
So Command & Conquer 3 is a long-running RTS series, or was long-running. Fuck you, EA. There was Generals, Red Alert, Tiberium Wars, just many types of Command & Conquer games that spanned very many genres and how they played. Now, being 26, I didn't really get into Generals very much, and I didn't really get into Red Alert until Red Alert 3 came out. And even that, I mean, Command & Conquer Tiberium Sun was the prequel to Tiberium Wars, and that came out way, way, way back when. So I got really big into Command & Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars when it came out. And jumping into that game, I was a little surprised, especially as a younger kid, with the campaign, because RTS campaigns are a little hit or miss, and this one was a little hit or miss with its camp and its insane amounts of cheese, but it took some genuine issues.
What are you doing? He's defenseless.
He's the enemy. Okay, so for starters, all of the actual like live.
Wait a minute, these are cutscenes? They actually film cutscenes for this game? Clearly, Command & Conquer is famous, and they're like, okay, we are confident enough for this RTS game. We're going to create cutscenes, real actors.
Action, acting, and stuff for all these games are border between being somewhat decent to being passable to being absolute crap. It just depended on what mission you were on. The script was all over the place. The sets were funny, you know, but at the same time, there was so much charm to it that it was acceptable.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
I want you to look at Senator Armstrong.
So that's where the meme comes from, Red Alert 3. Alright, how many games do this, man? I don't remember. I'm pretty sure I've seen certain, you know, I guess real life cutscenes in lots of gamings, you know. Yeah, I can't really remember one specifically, but obviously if the game is famous enough, they're going to take that risk, otherwise all this. Do you see those actors' faces? Do you see the feeling like, okay, I need money, so that's why I'm doing this kind of thing?
Of Metal Gear Rising, all right? In terms of story, Armstrong being the final villain is like the dumbest thing on the planet. He was barely set up at all, mentioned like once, and then just arrives like a 20-minute cutscene. It's honestly pretty awful writing, but it's so fucking funny and charming that you don't give a shit, because it's Nano Machine Man. I kind of get that feeling a little bit, except the game deals with some pretty specific and highly political issues. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Tiberium Wars is a sequel to Tiberium Sun that came out in the 1990s. The third game follows the third Tiberium War. Tiberium is a mysterious alien substance that crash landed on Earth. This was sometime in the 1990s, and it began terraforming the landscape. It would constantly mutate the local flora and fauna, and overall just spread pretty rapidly, and it was generally dangerous and toxic to humans. However, it was also a very potent fuel source, a very powerful resource. So despite the obvious dangers of toxic gas, massive human mutation, this becoming such a major resource and how much it was spreading across the planet made it very sought after. In the 2040s, about 50 years later, this is when our two major factions are fighting. The Global Defense Initiative, or GDI, is the general law and order kind of group. They're an amalgamation of a ton of countries all coming together with the pretty standard like American looking law and order and strength in terms of military might kind of group. They're trying to combat the spread of the crystals and generally protect everybody and keep everyone
basically your you know, Hollywood trope, right? If you see any, you know, this kind of military Hollywood movies, there you go. Doesn't matter if this is realistic or not, but there you go.
Huddled together in these nice safe zones, and they're fighting the Brotherhood of Nod. The Brotherhood of Nod believe that the crystals are serving as humanity's next evolution, that the use and mutation, etc. of Tiberium is what will bring people up into, I don't know, some kind of like massive new livelihood. You know how that kind of people go when they're led by their very, very smooth leader, Kane. The world is generally collapsed altogether, and any kind of national border has been removed or assimilated, and now the entire world is ran into zones. You've got blue zones, yellow zones, and red zones. Blue zones are life as we generally know it, almost free of any kind of Tiberium, and the GDI take up almost the entirety of the blue zones. The yellow zones have light Tiberium exposure. It's around here and there. It's generally demilitarized, very, well, you know, scavenger-like, and Nod takes up most of these areas. Red zones are nearly uninhabitable. Nod has some of these as well, but generally if you're in a red zone, you just can't live there. See, these cutting up of zones is generally where the overall fighting between GDI and Nod take place.
This is interesting. This reminds me of Stalker for some reason, right? First of all, the faction thing, right? There's one faction who thinks that you should embrace it all. Other faction thinks, you know, we shouldn't touch this shit. The same thing with Stalker with duty and freedom type of thing, right? And this zone thing, like certain zones are just thriving, others are like wasteland, and one of them is like you can't really even go there or something like that. I mean, they can expand on this kind of you know, lore basically into movies, TV show, whatever, right? It is becoming a trend now, even though Fallout is getting TV show.
Because to the Brotherhood of Nod, they see GDI as the oppressors. They have gone out and taken all of the habitable blue zones, all of the areas that are the safest, and they have shoved everyone else out. GDI are forcing the impoverished and the unworthy out of the safe zones into the scavenger wastelands. This generally creates anger and animosity to the people pushed out by GDI and have them go directly to the direct opposition, the fanatical terrorist group Brotherhood of Nod. Because when you and your family have been pushed out of a safe zone to scavenge for yourself, joining a fanatical group to tear down the oppressors is not that far from an understandable course of action.
It's real. They are the oppressor if they pushes people out like that. They are the oppressor. So yeah, I get it. You know, this that face is something. Like, you know, the whole Kane's thing might be a bit more, you know, radical. His end goal must be too much. But I guess at the base of it, it's not wrong there.
Oh yeah, there's also the Skrin too. That's like the Tiberium aliens. They just kind of show up at the end. I mean, they have their own lore and stuff, but honestly, it's not as interesting to me. They're really cool looking, but they're just like, hey, here's your third faction. You know, looking back at it, it's really nice when a game genuinely has a political theme going on with it. And I mean like real politics. Not, oh my God, Twitter mad gay people in games politics. No, like real politics, the creation and enforcement of borders, the issue of WMDs for both the big and small factions, the fanaticalization of people forced out by a government they believe don't care about them, and the horrible things people will do to that government and its citizens in response. And despite the fact that this game is made by EA, there's some balls to that. Now, this campaign still has...
EA wasn't like that in 2007, right? I mean, okay, EA wasn't just completely perfect 2007, but it wasn't the way we remember. Definitely not in 2007. Because we need to understand the original Assassin's Creed is not even arrived yet, right? Lots of great games are not even there yet, Dragon Age and things like that. This is from 2007. So EA wasn't that bad around that time. So it's understandable. And the real politics, this is interesting, isn't it? Real politics just means gray areas, right? I mean, it's not some bullshit. The point is not some bullshit. Both sides might have some kind of a, you know, valid points that people can, you know, go towards, right? One side basically literally pushes out people and, you know, throw them out in the wasteland, right? Other side is really fanatical, but their point is not completely wrong, that they want to take down oppressors because they are oppressors. This is good. Or, you know, struggle here and there where you stand, you know, line gets grayer and grayer basically.
Goofy moments and still very campy at times, but the actual thing, the actual entire scale of a political war is really fascinating, which creates the foundation for this gameplay. And boy, ow, I forgot I had a bruise there. It's good gameplay.
The game is fun.
So in Tiberium Wars, and if I haven't made this clear, Command & Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars is the first game. Kane's Wrath is like the expansion of it. But in Tiberium Wars, the original, there were 3 factions, the GDI, Nod, and Scrin. GDI is the military group of peacekeepers. It's really kind of the American military style of group. Their stuff looks generally clean, disciplined, and functional. Their units move and speak generally rather professionally, but just have enough personality to stand out. Things like rifleman squads,
securing structure,
Predator tanks,
Predator ready for battle,
look and generally sound the part. But as you go up the tech tree, that personality starts to really make its way out. Things like zone troopers,
we got this handled,
mammoth tanks,
mammoth advancing.
Yeah, but we need to realize that effective things, right, efficient things are boring in a way, right? So people like to say, oh, there's going to be so drama. Usually just goes, you know, by, you know, how it's supposed to go, right, step by step, right? You know, you see lots of military movies, see how people takes unnecessary risk here and there. That's not how usually it happens in military, any battle or anything, right? It goes how they're trained, right? If everything goes according to plan, it's just like a, you know, some kind of a drill type of thing. People do this, people do that. Obviously, it rarely goes according to plan, but their behavior is just the, you know, the way they are trained. It's not going to be some dramatic thing. So basically, this is your professional military type of thing.
Commando.
He's going dirt tasting.
I'll give GDI a bit more intrigue in their character voicing that has them stand out as, yeah, they're part of the Peacekeeper group, but these people have been around. They're allowed to talk a little more loosely because they're veterans. As far as Nod is concerned, despite the whole concept of fanaticism and all that stuff, Nod is definitely playing the role as the bad guys. And I mean, they're terrorists, so it's fair, but their voice lines really show it. Nod is a militant force, and they act like it. Their buildings are a bit more looming. Their presence is a lot more sinister. The way things are curved and sometimes spiked, or like even things like their airfield doesn't look like a normal airfield. It's like a giant spire in the sky. Their voice acting is impeccable though. Honestly, Nod might be some of the best voice acting in an RTS game I have ever played. I mean, the militant squad alone shows what they're all about.
The oppressors must die! Make them suffer!
Saboteurs are sinister. Attack bikes are just total masochists.
Let's go for a hunt! Kill them all!
Things like flame tanks have this grueling, brooding nature to them.
Cleansing fire.
Hell, just that way a flame tank says their own name.
Flame tank.
Just that venomous delivery is just, oh. This also moves with their tactics and weaponry. You know, GDI feels like it has a pretty standard way of doing its fighting. You've got,
I'm imagining voice actor in the, you know, voice booths basically says something like, no, see, no, we have to do this again. You're not understanding the concept, and basically took many takes until they actually understand what they're trying to voice. Every time a game, you know, anything game related gets the voice right, voice acting right, I always wonder this, like, how many retakes the person said, like, okay, you need to feel the character.
Air support, you've got tanks and infantry, all that kind of stuff. Nod is a little more mischievous. They use what's at their disposal. Instead of machine guns and tanks, they have lasers and Tiberium upgraded missiles and flamethrowers. They have a unit called the Reckoner, which is like a suicide truck where you just run it into your opponent's base, you plant it down, it becomes really tanky, and then everything inside just generally burns things to death. Normally it's with flamethrower guys. The flame tank is a tank with flamethrowers. Their big, scary top-level vehicle is called the Avatar, and that thing will kill your other vehicles to gain upgrades. So just rip it up and place something on its shoulder. Oh god, of course. How could I not forget the literal suicide bomber unit you can build called the Fanatics? They have bombs on their chests. I don't know how more I can describe this. They run with their hands in the air and they go.
All right, seriously, this game would not work in today. Let's be honest. If somebody made this game, the gaming commission would be like, no, we can't have that shit. They somehow passed in 2007, right? I mean, obviously there's something wrong with this. I mean, you know, whatever is real in the world, with the context, you can show it in, I guess, movie and games, right? I mean, if your context is not bad, but still in today's world, right, people, no, this is too much, you should never do this. I don't know. What's the rating of this game? That's the thing I want to know. I mean, was it mature 18 plus or something like that? I don't know.
go boom, and they do a lot of damage. Yeah, I mean, not our good people. They have a lot of personality, though. The screen I have less to say about because they're, they're aliens. The idea of them is very alien. They sound alien. Their voice acting is actually, or whatever their sound mixing is really good, actually. They all sound genuinely pretty alien. Honestly, the sound design of all their creatures is really good. There's a lot of effort put into it.
Okay.
They're kind of just an amalgamation of well, of everything. There's plenty of alien, as in, you know, alien. You've got some The Day the Earth Stood Still with like their buzzer swarms and stuff. You got some Independence Day in there. You got the War of the Worlds tripods. You've got quite a lot of just stuff pulled from other things, but in a weird way, when you pull from so much else, you almost kind of make your own thing. And they feel unique despite the fact that it's obviously inspired. They also play super alien as well. They utilize Tiberium a lot to either buff their weaponry, or it allows them to create more Tiberium fields, which acts as the game resource. So that's pretty important to you. They have things like stasis fields and wormholes and mind control. You know, they're doing all that kind of stuff. Despite that all, though, they still feel familiar to play, and pickup and playing them is pretty simple, just like with the other two factions. But then you get to Kane's Wrath. Kane's Wrath decided to expand upon the 3 rosters. Instead of going from just 3 factions, you now have 9. However, they're subsections of the original. So you've got still GDI, Nod, and Scrim, but now you have 2 sub-factions per group. For GDI, we had the Steel Talons and the Zocom.
That is
Steel
good.
Talons. Steel Talons rule. I gotta do it. It's always funny. They're an experimental weapon group that's generally focused around the ground combat and also walkers. They don't really build high-level infantry like zone trooper, sniper teams. They also don't build like the Shatterer tank. However, they make up for it by different kinds of changes to all their other main tanks. Instead of a Predator tank, you have the Titan. Instead of the Shatterer, you have the Wolverine. The Titan is a big walking giant that has a gigantic gun on its side, and the Wolverine is a massive anti-infantry murderer on legs. Their harvesters become heavy harvesters that are tankier and can put infantry inside of it, and their juggernauts, which are these enormous howitzers on legs, now can also fit infantry in them and have a little bit more of an AoE blast. Steel Talons
More
is like that
mechanical
when you
side,
really
man.
want to just roll over your opponent, utilizing nothing but tons of tanks. You have like 20 Titans, and you've got some Juggernauts, or no, Behemoths in the back, Wolverines ripping people apart. AP ammo is insanely powerful, and it's just a damn good time. Zocom, or Zone Operations
Basically
Command,
max side of thing, right? Basically you have different type of robots. That's what you do. I like that they basically made it into, you know, subgroups, right? This is how, you know, usually lore expands. But I guess this is the last Command and Conquer game because it says Command and Conquer sendoff. I don't know, but the point is it makes sense, right? The more you expand, the more better it becomes. This is what DLCs are for, right? DLC expand things that they usually didn't have time for, right? DLC usually meant that you keep your shareholders happy by releasing an original game, but still have ideas you expand on them. People don't do that shit anymore. That just sucks. In the latest things, you don't get that much of DLC that you used to, right? I mean, people already launches games way too fast nowadays. So, if anything, DLC should be the godsend, but they are not doing the DLC right. Right, for past 3-4 years, even Cyberpunk didn't get much of DLC, right? So it's just fucked up.
Is entirely based around working with, you know, really bad Tiberium fields and stuff. They also really like sonic stuff. Their orcas fire sonic things instead of regular missiles for their aircraft. They have the Shatterer, but it's the Zone Shatterer, so it can fire this big old sonic blast at people. And their Zone Troopers have become Zone Raiders, which is exactly where I developed my kink for strong women in big fucking armor. Miss me with that bikini armor shit. Cringe. Get me full plate. Zone Raiders are actually really dope. Instead of Zone Troopers with their big railguns, they've got AoE sonic blasters and shoulder-mounted anti-aircraft missile launchers. Honestly, Zocom in general can mass infantry and do a pretty damn good job at it. A lot of their infantry have great upgrades that they're allowed with this faction, and mobilizing tons of Zone Raiders, those missile troopers, and then even some cyber teams here and there, throw a commando in there. There's a lot of strength in that army. Or you could fall back on the classic Zocom strategy, which is 1,000,000 hammerhead gunships filled with zone raiders. It's just everything dies. Like, you can't stop it. It is insane. As for Nod, you got two factions known as the...
Alright, isn't that game breaking though? Where's shit like this? Because it feels like, you know, this Kane's faction is sometimes too intense, right? With the way, especially with those suicide bombers and things like that. And in this one, basically, you know, that, you know, air attack with so many. I mean, how is that not game breaking? Is there something balance that out?
Of Kane and the Black Hand. The Black Hand is my favorite faction.
Now we'll see, you know, what Kane's, you know, basic subsections are.
In all of Command and Conquer, I fucking love this faction so much. If you don't know what the Black Hand is...
Alright, you know what? This is half video and I think time is... I'll do this tomorrow. But yeah, so far we saw the good guys factions. You know, good guys. It can be OP too. We'll see the Kane's one now. Tomorrow basically, how that's going to be OP. So, you know, what are they going to expand on the suicide bombers? This is fucked up. But yeah. Alright, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe and I'll see you next time.